Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm extremely thankful to have the opportunity to talk on my favorite topic, which is sleep and autonomic nervous system in the case of ME-CFS dysautonomia and sleep disturbance. If we look at the clinical features of mitochondrial myopathies, so we have a very similar symptom picture. So the symptoms affect practically every organ systems. So we have neurological symptoms, attention difficulty, central sensitization, we have cardiac issues, we have pain, musculoskeletal pain, etc. We have stomach problems and general shortness of breath, fever, and so forth. So we know that mitochondria are the factory of, or the power station, and that but when we have patients with ME where mitochondrial myopathies are excluded, and still they have the same symptomatology, so we have to then think, if it is not the power station, could it be the logistics? That means transportation and storage of nutrients and oxygen for the needs of aerobic energy production. So to follow up my logic, I have to jump a couple of times out of the box. So when we ask what is the function of the sympathetic nervous system, it's fight and flight. So when you are in danger, you activate sympathetic nervous system. And of course, that's true. But the main function is, if I put it very simple terms, I would say it's responsible for effective and safe aerobic energy production. Why safe? That is, oxygen is very toxic, it has lots of energy, and if you haven't got the machinery to make it take the energy in a safe way, you can make more harm. So the role of the sympathetic nervous system is essential, is the key player in energy metabolism. It's both monitoring and regulating the transfer of oxygen from the ambient air through the airways, lungs, blood, arteries to the mitochondria, and also it is taking away the waste product CO2 to the ambient air. So all these steps are controlled by sympathetic activation. But not only this, it is also taking care of the nutrients, how they pass their way through stomach, absorption and delivery to the mitochondria. And also they take care of if you have to deposit the energy things. And all this happens according to feedback through the interoceptive receptors, which through the C fibers tell the sympathetic nervous system where to regulate. So this is a very, very important, that the sympathetic system, usually we think that it initiates in the amygdala or in the head, but actually it initiates in the body. It's the link between aerobic energy production and the sympathetic nervous system is demonstrated by the connection of HIF-1 alpha, which is the transcriptional regulator of cellular and development response to hypoxia. So hypoxia is activating HIF-1 and telling how the sympathetics should develop. So if you have a knockout mice of HIF-1 alpha gene, so the development of sympathetic system can be failing. So this affects all the aspects of sympathetic structures, including the preganglionic, postganglionic neurons, sympathetic ganglion chain, and chromaffin cells in the adrenal medulla, even cardiac contractility. So actually it looks like the sympathetic nervous system developed when the nature was learning to use oxygen for energy production. If we go to sleep, I'm I always go to World Sleep meetings, and I'm surprised that that there is so little presentations on sleep. So, and I think the reason is that actually the sleep doctors they can't open the door into interest, because sleep disorders is everything. So some patients have hypersomnia, some patients cannot sleep, they snore, they have sleep apnea, bruxism, restless leg syndrome, delayed sleep phase, practically every sleep problem what you can, which are defined. There is only one thing, non-restorative sleep, which is the key question to ask any patient. And unfortunately, that has no correlate on the standard polysomnographic sleep recording does not have a parameter which correlates with the non-restorative function of sleep. Maybe I'm a little bit provocative if I say that if sleep doctors would understand sleep disorders in ME patients, that would open more understanding overall why we sleep, because the question why we sleep is still open. So the second jump out of the box is that sleep is important to a number of brain functions. If you open Wikipedia and they say how the neurons communicate with each other, memory consolidation, brain waste clearance, and so forth, all very not very exact things. So I will be provocative to say that the main function of the, no, I have a spelling, the main function of sleep, not brain, main function of sleep is to rest the peripheral sympathetic nervous system. The sleep is in your body. I mean, head is also part of the body, so including body and head. But it's not the brain waves what we used to measure, if you see the picture up there. So we concentrate on the brain. And if I'm provocative to say that the purpose of sleep is to replenish the autonomic nervous system transmitters, well, let's say dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, or noradrenaline, adrenaline. So then if you deprive people of sleep, then you risk to develop dysautonomia, unbalance in these neurotransmitters. So this is the circadian profile of norepinephrine. So on the right, you see the sleep period, and you know, norepinephrine keeps you going during the day, but at night it will be reduced. And why it is reduced, I would predict that in the evening your norepinephrine stores at the nerve endings, the vesicle number is decreased, and in the morning you wake up with like this. So you have the vesicles full operative to meet the stressful situations with great pleasure and not at all feeling stress. So norepinephrine is a very strong stress hormone, actually. The sleep is, usually we sleep at night and are awake during the day. And this is the circadian rhythm that is controlling the sympathetic tone over 24 hours. So it's higher during the day, and then it goes lower, and when it crosses the horizontal line there, then you usually fall asleep. And the nadir is at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and thereafter it starts rising. So this is the sympathetic tone. It is tonic activation of the sympathetic system. And if you, when you are at the 3-4 o'clock in the morning, when the tone is lowest, that is actually the most vulnerable time for the system to maintain blood circulation. But there is a rescue system which is activated at that time, and this is the pain fibers. So everybody have experienced that if you, the pain and temperature fibers, C fibers, if you have pain, you can't sleep. Pain is keeping you awake at night. If it is too cold, you can't sleep. If it is too hot, you can't sleep. So this activation of the C receptors is disturbing your sleep. And actually what is also activating in, so it is anything that goes wrong in the blood flow in the periphery, particularly hypoxia, these fibers activate. And they try to rescue your too low sympathetic tone 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So they are not used all the time, but in case you need it, they are your rescue system. But if you happen to have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is meaning that your arteries are very floppy, they need always the sympathetic protection, and this will then take over the sympathetic and vasoconstriction to maintain blood circulation at night. The trouble is that the circadian rhythm is taking care of that the activity and the recovery are in balance, but the pain fibers are not responsible of saving your energy or saving your norepinephrine, and they just drive full capacity. And when these cells activate, there will be also antidromal, well, I take the pointer. So when you have anything metabolic problems at this area, so then there's a retrogradient signal to the environment, and the mast cells will be activated and liberating dangerous stuff would not help the local situation there. The afferent fibers are taking the signal further to the sympathetic activation to correct the hemodynamic problem when you are most relaxed at night. And the trouble is that the connective tissue, we have a lot of patients with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and very floppy, very overextending connective tissue. And this means that the elastic arteries, which work as a second pump in diastole, that means that when the heart is beating, actually the blood is not flowing very much forward, it's just expanding the walls. And when in the diastole, the walls will give the recoil back, and then the blood is going further. So it's not a rigid tube, it's an elastic tube that has potential to store energy, and actually all the coronary artery flow is based on this rebound, this recoil, because coronary artery circulation is not possible when the heart is contracting. But in patients with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, they have very elastic aorta, but the recoil is bad. So the blood pressure is going up and down, but the blood is not going further. And that's why yesterday we called Linda van Kampen saying that, well, blood pressure and heart rate doesn't tell much. It's more the flow, and as she demonstrated. So blood pressure is going up, flow is. So when your trampoline is too elastic, so it's not fun. But if you activate the trampoline, then it starts working again. And that's the problem at night, because when you have a floppy artery system, this is on the left, you have a healthy person awake, and this is the recoil, and you have norepinephrine activity making it having a good recoil, and then this is during the sleep. You don't have much norepinephrine, but the natural elasticity is doing its job. It's sufficient. If you have a hypermobile patient, so here during the day, you see the recoil is weak, but and during the night it's even worse. But if you double the amount of norepinephrine, you can make your circulation working perfectly fine during the daytime, and at nighttime you can correct it also with the norepinephrine. So this seems to be working well as long as you have epinephrine stores. And now, compared to the healthy person, you use one unit per day and nothing during the night. You can save your norepinephrine. The patient with hypermobility is driving double amount of norepinephrine during the day and 1 unit at night. And the person has no possibilities of collecting. You are using all your norepinephrine right away when you have the stores. So this is the model how I try to understand what is the multitude of sleeping problems. This is again the circadian rhythm, and when the 3-4 o'clock time is here, the arteries are fully relaxed. You save all your norepinephrine, but this is the line where the blood perfusion is compromised. So the first symptom, well, yeah, and then you have a sleep pressure. Usually you go very quickly on this line where you are fully relaxed. This is a normal situation. When you get the ME, you have deficient norepinephrine activity, and then you go lower. And the first sign often is that 3-4 o'clock, you have to start using norepinephrine. You have half an hour, one hour wakefulness before you can go back to sleep. And you also suffering from low norepinephrine, you start going jogging, you go to the gym to increase your adrenaline levels. You feel well out of it. Then if you are working too much, you have more sleep pressure, and you go very quickly down, and this is not good. So there is a few fibers who say, don't relax, we can't handle with the hemodynamics here. So don't sleep, falling asleep is more dangerous than staying awake. And the final situation is that you can only sleep during the daytime because the sympathetic tone is at the adequate level, but at nighttime you are so low that you can't sleep at all. And sleep doctors say this is the circadian rhythm problem. I think the circadian rhythm is perfectly all right there, but the trouble is that you can't sleep when you relax. So how to measure sympathetic activity? There is some new technology, just a couple of days, a couple of years ago, and if you have a pulse arterial tonometry, the amplitude is telling how much vasoconstriction you have. And that is also possible to measure and show that where the REM sleep is sympathetically active, whereas the non-REM sleep is very relaxed. And when we see the whole night profile, you see this is deep sleep and this is REM sleep. So every time in a normal healthy person, REM sleep is connected with vasoconstriction at the bottom, and slow wave sleep is more relaxed, so there's a profile. The ME-CFS type of pattern is that you don't see the profile. So even if you are in deep sleep, and the doctor says your sleep is perfect, if you look at the brain function, the autonomic nervous system is not sleeping. So it is running all the way like a marathon at night. And that's the result is that you have no stores left. So what do you need norepinephrine for? I mean, if we need energy, how do you connect norepinephrine with energy? So actually, this is the normal situation during sleep. You have vasodilatation. You don't direct your blood to certain organs. But when you are awake, normally you have norepinephrine activity, which makes a vasoconstriction, and then the metabolic active organs can produce CO2, which has a vasodilatory effect. So then you get appropriately metabolically less active tissues get less oxygen, and the active get more oxygen. This is the normal situation. In ME-CFS at night, the same thing. You have general vasodilatation, but awake, you can't make vasoconstriction. You lose valuable oxygen to places where the tissues are metabolically less active, and you can't provide enough oxygen to metabolically active tissues. So this means you can't direct your blood to right places. So this leads to sympathetic nervous system collapse, which means that you are using your norepinephrine account right away as you get it synthesized, and this will lead to a whole bunch of problems which are controlled by the autonomic nervous system. I'm sorry to be a little bit over time, but the important thing, I think this is important, that the sympathetic collapse is also affecting the immune response. So the macrophages and mast cells, they have alpha and beta receptors, and if you lose sympathetic nervous system control, you lose your immune response. So often we think that it's the infection. Infection is important trigger of ME, but I think there are a lot of things happening even before you get the infection. You get immune deficiency before that. So actually it's not the infection from the sky or from your neighbor. It's you are already immune deficient. And why do you are immune deficient? Because you have dysautonomia. You can't stimulate the immune system. And why do you have dysautonomia? You have sleep deprivation. And why do you have sleep deprivation is because your connective tissue needs more norepinephrine support. This is my fancy story, which needs to be. I think if this inspires some of you making experiments and testing this kind of thinking, I would love if this talk will initiate such activities. Thank you.